Good morning, Stampers. Happy Friday. Welcome to this week's Facebook Live. This week I am continuing on with my patterned paper tips and tricks and project share that I've been focusing on for the full month of June. You can always catch whatever you've missed on either my YouTube channel, over on Instagram, or on my blog at stamptreasures.com. My name is Sherry Roth. I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Alberta, Canada, and I am excited to be here live with you to share 2 fun cards using patterned paper. And along the way, I'm going to share tips on how you can make the most of your patterned paper. So before we get started, I wanted to share the winner of last week's card. So last week I made this fun pop-up pocket card. You can catch the replay up on my YouTube channel. And the lucky winner is Kathy Clark. So Kathy, I will pop that in the mail for you this weekend. Thank you so much to everyone for watching and commenting, sharing, all that. I appreciate that. I look at all those comments. I don't always have the time to respond to every one of them, but I appreciate every single one of them. Hey, good morning, Kathy. You're the lucky winner of this card from last week. I will switch out this piece so that it doesn't say welcome to the team. All right, so I'm going to set that aside. And then today we are going to use some fun new pattern paper, new to me. Well, it's new because it's new to the annual catalog. And the name escapes me. It's called Delightfully Eclectic. So earlier this week, I finally got my paper, my pattern paper order with a whole bunch of the pattern paper that's on sale. You still have the opportunity to pick up some of those packages at the discounted price until the end of June. And here is a little peek at the Delightfully Eclectic. So this is a paper stack, and a paper stack, you get 48 sheets. They're double-sided pattern paper, so I'll do a quick flip through. Some of you may have seen, I did a flip through of some of my newer paper earlier this week on Facebook. It really is eclectic. That's the perfect name for it. It's got so many just random patterns that are great for card making, for scrapbooking. I'm super, super excited about this one. Great colors, lots and lots of colors. So we're going to use this for both of the cards that we're creating today. But I also have some additional samples that I'll share for each of them with you. So make sure you stick around and watch till the end. There's lots and lots of great ideas. This will also be a great video to save or go to the blog post and pin it, because it's a great one to come back to at Christmas, because both of these cards I'm going to share tips on making multiples and using a full sheet of 12 by 12 to make those multiples. There will be absolutely no waste today. Okay? All right, so let's get started. First up, I'm going to use this pattern paper. So we're going to pretend that this started as a 12 by 12. It did start as a 12 by 12, but I cut a 4-inch strip. So I had a 4 by 12 inch strip. And that's what you're going to want to do. If you're going to want to create, you can create up to 6 of this card design with this idea, with one sheet of 12 by 12. So you want to cut 4-inch strips. So you'd end up with 3 4 by 12 inch strips. And then you're going to rotate it. And you know what? I forgot my notebook, which has all my little cheat sheet, my measurements in it. Just a sec. Okay, here we go. Okay, so we've got our 4 by 12 inch strip, and then we've got the 12 inch length at the top, and we're going to cut it at 5 1/4, and then 5 1/4 again. And then we have this 1.5 inch by 4 inch piece, and we're just going to cut that in half. So at 3/4 of an inch. So we have 2 3/4 by 4 inch pieces. Okay, so from one 4 by 12 inch piece, you can create 2 cards. And you can get 3 4x12 inch pieces from a 12x12. So that means you can make 6 of these cards. So you would just repeat what I just did with all of your 4x12 inch strips so that you can make enough for 6. So that this would make a great Christmas card. Like if you make multiples for anything, but Christmas especially, because we often make multiples for the holidays. So this is a great one. I'm going to end up making all of these cards, so I'm going to cut them again. So I'll just do a little reminder. So we've got our 12-inch length at the top. We're going to cut it at 5 1/4, 5 1/4, and then 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so we've got all of our pieces. We'll set this aside. We're going to need that for the second card. And I'm just going to pull out these 2 pieces for now. These ones I'll save for when I make my multiples. I'm not going to do that with you guys because once you see how one is made, you don't really need to see me make multiples. All right, so now I'm going to pull in, grabbing my supplies here. Okay, I'm going to use the deckled rectangles. Now, if you don't have the deckled rectangles, you could use the stitched rectangles that are now retired. You could use the scallop contour dies because they've got the scalloped rectangles in them. I'm sure there's lots of other ones. You could even just use your paper cutter and cut a window out of it. But what we're going to do is we are going to take, I believe it's this one. Let me just make sure. Yeah. So it is the 4th largest deckled rectangle. And we're going to cut that out. I'm going to grab my die cutting machine. Oh, and there goes one of my plates. Okay, so we've got our die cutting machine. And what we're going to do, let me make sure I'm in camera here. Okay, so we are going to center this so that we have an even border all the way around. And when you're using any of these kind of rectangle shaped dies, I always suggest that you don't go in straight on. So I've got mine at a slight angle. It's hard to tell on camera there, but you can see that it's at a slight angle. So this corner is going to go in first. Just want to make sure it's straight. And then we'll feed that through. Okay. So now we've got 2 pieces. Then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take one size larger, so this would be the 3rd largest, and cut it from a coordinating cardstock. So I've gone ahead and I've done that from some Pretty Peacock cardstock. And I'm going to bring in my card base, which is a piece of Pretty Peacock. And I'm going to start assembling. So I'm going to adhere this pattern paper flat to my card base. I know those are fun dies, aren't they? They remind me of those deckled edge scissors that, you know, a lot of us started with fancy patterned scissors if you've been a long time paper crafter. So it kind of reminds me of that. And then this piece is going to get adhered here. Right in the center of that. And then this piece is going to get popped up using dimensionals. So this is a very, very simple card design that would be really great for multiples. Okay, and then what you do want to do is you want to make sure your patterns match up. So I don't want to put it this way. I'm going to put it this way because this is the rest of this circle and this tiny little bit is the rest of this circle. And I'm just going to pop that up right in the middle. And there is the base of our card. And then for this other piece, I'm going to add that to the inside. So whenever I am paper crafting with patterned paper, I always try, well, there's multiple things that I try to do. First of all, I'm almost always making more than one card. So I figure if you are going to sit down and make a card, you might as well make multiples because the design process takes the longest, right? So if you can switch up the greeting. If you don't need too many birthday cards or thank you cards, if you just need one, then switch up the greeting and make the rest, you know, thinking of you or something along those lines. So they don't necessarily have to have the same greeting, but if they have the same design, it makes it easier. And you've already got all the supplies out. So why not make multiples? And if you don't need that many cards, then you can start maybe a gift set that you can turn around and gift to somebody, right? The other thing I try to do is I always try to use my scraps when I'm sitting there crafting with that paper. So I think of different ways. Okay, I've got a little strip left. Can I add it to the inside? Do I have enough to decorate the envelope flap? So just different things like that help me to make sure that I use up some of my stuff. Okay, so let me share the finished card here. So here is the finished card. So let me share what else I've used. That away. Okay, so I have used the Layering Leaves stamp set, which is Rachel Tessman's $1 Million stamp set. Love, love, love this stamp set. And the coordinating bow punch. So this we've had for a number of years, and I always love when Stampin' Up! Comes out with a new product that coordinates with a product that I might already have in my collection or that we've carried for years. So that is the case with this Layering Leaves stamp set. So I've used that with some crushed curry ink, some pretty peacock ink, some shimmer paper. There is this beautiful shimmer paper in the specialty paper section of our annual catalog. Actually, let me see if I have it handy here. I'll pull it out and share it with you because it's beautiful. Here it is here. It is just the most beautiful shimmer paper. It's got a beautiful shine to it, but it's really light. So it's great for punching or die cutting, and it's not messy. It's got a beautiful shimmer to it. It's truly a fine shimmer. It's called Soft Shimmer 12 by 12 specialty paper. And it comes in Berry Burst, Bubble Bath, Lost Lagoon, Night of Navy, and Pretty Peacock. All right, so that's what I used for this little leaf. Of course, some baker's twine because I always use baker's twine, right? And then I used these two dies are from the Stylish Shapes dies, another one that I use so often. And then these little sequins are from the Adhesive Backed Sequins Trio. So these Pretty Peacock sequins. All right, so that is the first card, and I think I added some stamping on the inside to that as well. All right, so that's the first card idea for you. So I shared how to cut it so that you can get the most out of it, so there is no waste. If you're making all 6 cards, you are not wasting, and you're using a full sheet of paper. I find it so satisfying when you use a full sheet of pattern paper. So whether you have lots of pattern paper or you don't have much, maybe you're a new crafter and you don't have a lot, but you want to stretch your supplies, this is a great card design for that. Okay, next up. Oh, hang on, before we go on to the next one, let me share where this idea came from. So this idea came from this swap, which I received from Jennifer Hill on the incentive trip. So she used the Fresh as a Daisy DSP and the layering oval, or the double oval punch, I think it's called. And then look what she did with this. She just used a strip of cardstock and she folded it and created her own little banner. Isn't that cute? So that's where this card idea came from. So let me bring back the original. And then I did one other one where I used this month's Paper Pumpkin Kit. How fun is this? So I cut up one of the card bases. I just cut off the front and then I repeated the same step that I just did for this one. and then use some of the embellishments, added a happy birthday, and put that across. So there's 3 different ideas using that same card design. Okay, so now let's move on to the second one. Let me pop these here. I gotta switch out my bins. And this one I'll make the whole the whole way through. Okay, so first up I'm gonna share, where's my sample here? Okay, first up I'm gonna share how to cut your DSP. So this one you can actually get 9 cards out of 1 piece of pattern paper. Okay, so again, we're gonna pretend that this is a 12 by 12. It started as a 12 by 12, but now it's 8 by 12. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut 4-inch strips. Let me just make sure. Okay. Are we cutting 4-inch strips? No, we're cutting 3 3/4. So 3 3/4. And then we're gonna rotate it. And we're gonna cut at 3 3/4, again at 3 3/4, again at 3 3/4. And then we've got this strip, which is going to be perfect for the inside. Now we're not going to end up with enough of these inside pieces for every single card, but that's okay. We're still going to use up the whole sheet. All right, and then this strip that's left, we're going to cut at 3 3/4. And then we'll rotate it around and cut 3 3/4. So you want to get 9 3 3/4 inch squares out of your 1 sheet of DSP. And then your leftover strips will be for the insides. So this measures 3/4 of an inch by 3 3/4. Here we've got a 3/4 of an inch by 12-inch strip. But so that there's no waste, we're gonna cut this at 4 inches. Okay, and we're gonna use every last piece of that DSP. Okay, so I'm gonna take out 1 of each of these pieces. These ones will get set aside. I'll work on those afterwards. Okay, we're gonna bring back our paper trimmer and we're gonna score this diagonally. So this particular patterned paper, or this particular card design, works best for patterned papers that don't really have a direction or not an obvious direction. Okay, so this one, this actually is directional. It can go either, well, it really goes this way because the flowers, because of the way the flowers are, but because it's got a smaller pattern and some of the other patterns in this paper aren't directional, you can get away with it. But if it was something like the lace shop pattern papers with the little houses on them, that's not really a great pattern paper choice for this card because you are going to see both the front and the back. So just something to keep in mind when you go to create this card or this card design. All right, so then I've got a piece of white cardstock that measures 5 1/4 by 8, and it's scored at 4 inches. Okay, and we're actually going to emboss this, and I'm going to use the Time Worn Type embossing folder. So we're gonna bring back our die cutting machine here. And we don't need this. I need this. So this is a 3D embossing folder. And I only want to emboss the front. And if you've got a directional embossing folder, this is something that I want to point out. This actually is going to open like this, which seems a bit backwards. So your fold is going to be along the bottom. So if you've got an embossing folder that is directional, so this one does have some words on it They're not really legible words, but you can read a few of them. So you just want to keep that in mind. So this is directional. This is going to work out perfectly for this card. I'm just opening this up. Let me slide this out of the way. Hopefully you guys can see this. And I'm lining it up with the edge of the pattern. So the pattern does not go right to the edge of the plastic. And then I'm just going to close that. I'll put my fold in first, and then my gray mat on top, and then feed that through. Okay, and then I've got the embossed, the front flap is embossed and the words are going the right way, so all is good. Next, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our patterned paper and we're gonna fold it in half along that score line. I'll just use my bone folder to emboss it or burnish it, and then we're gonna add some adhesive to just that bottom flap. And then we're gonna line this up right in there, like that. So what we're creating is we're creating an envelope flap card. So it's gonna close like this. Okay, all right. So remember I said that this was 5 1/4 inches by 8 inches. So when it's folded, it's only 4 inches. And our standard size card base folded is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So I've got a piece of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch cardstock, Night of Navy cardstock, and that is going to be the base for my card. That's gonna go right here in the center so that we have this nice even Night of Navy border around the edges, and then it'll just open up like this. How fun is that? All right, so now we need to decorate it. So I am going to pull in, again, this layering leaves, which I don't have any of my stamps mounted, so we'll have to do that. So this is a stamp set that I am loving right now. Absolutely love it. It is also the stamp set that I am using for my very first tutorial club. And some of you may have noticed, yesterday was release day. Laura and I have partnered once again together to create an additional monthly class for you. I'm running it as a tutorial club. So club members, this tutorial is exclusive to club members. It's $15 a month. You sign up, it's a subscription. You can cancel at any time. There's no minimum commitment. And then if you live in Canada, you have the option of upgrading. So if you want the pre-cut card kits, then you have the option to do that. So there are lots and lots of options. And I did it that way because I have lots of people who follow me who are outside of Canada. So I wanted to be able to offer them something as well. So that's why I decided to run it as a tutorial club, because I can't send kits or supplies outside of Canada. So that way it doesn't matter where you live. If you want some inspiration, monthly inspiration, you'll get a minimum of 4 cards every month in the form of a tutorial, and it will automatically be emailed to you on the 26th of the month. And yeah, we've got lots of great ideas to share. We're doing a technique this month, so we're sharing lots of ideas on how to use this technique that we're doing. And some months it'll be technique, some months it'll be fun folds, you know, we're just leaving it open to do a variety of things. And this is the stamp set that we're focusing on this month. So you can always check out the tutorial and card club link that is in the description for more information. Okay, so back to talking about what we're doing here. All right, so this is one of our punches that has 2 images on it. So often they're called builder punches. This particular one is not called a builder punch because it doesn't necessarily, you don't put the pieces together to build something, but it does have 2 images. So here's a little tip if you only want to use 1 image. Flip over the punch and see, first of all, where the image is and which direction it's going. So I flipped it over. I want to use this larger one. So I want a piece that is not too, like a strip that is not too wide, because otherwise I'm going to waste a lot of cardstock by punching out this, and I don't need that. So I have a narrower piece of cardstock and the leaf is going that way. So I'm going to stamp it that way. The cost for the tutorial is just $15. $15 Canadian. So depending where you are, PayPal will work out the currency exchange. So for some of you, if you're in the US, then it's less than $15, right? Okay, so now when I slide it in, I can line it up. It's going the right way. And I'm gonna waste very little cardstock. Okay, the camera overhead, it's a little hard to. So this is all the cardstock that I wasted, just that tiny little piece. So there's a little tip for you when you're using those punches that have multiple images on them. All right, and I just realized that I need this thank you stamp again. Okay, so this piece I cut from Fresh Freesia and I used the All That dies. So it's this die right here. You could use any die shape. You could even use one of those deckled rectangles that we used on the first card. You just want something, you could use a circle as well. So I'll share another example. I think my other example uses a circle. Yes, it does. So we're gonna use that. That's gonna go on here, but I want to stamp the so much on here. I'm just gonna grab a scrap piece of paper and my navy ink. I'm gonna ink this up. And I'm not worried about the thank you. I'm going to end up covering the thank you over with this thank you here. I'm going to stamp this so it's a little closer to the right-hand side. And then we're going to use our snips and cut out this thank you. Now, I love the way that this looks. I love to fussy cut. I don't mind. I'll often grab something and just sit in front of the TV and fussy cut. But I know many of you are not fans of fussy cutting. So we do have several stamp sets. I think there's 2 or 3 stamp sets in the annual catalog. I think Charming Sentiments is one of them. I don't remember off the top of my head the name of the other ones. But they have their sets with lots of greetings, and then they have coordinating dies that will do this for you. So the dies will cut it out. So if you aren't a fan of fussy cutting but love the look of it, then check out those stamp sets because those are great sets. So I'm just loosely cutting around this. A little tip, when you're fussy cutting, move the cardstock and not the scissors. You'll end up with a little bit of a smoother cut. Okay, all right. So now we're gonna bring this piece in. I'm gonna flip it over and I'm gonna use some dimensionals and I'm gonna strategically place the dimensionals. So I'm gonna put one here and one here, and then checking to see where the bottom is, I'm gonna put one at the bottom. And you'll see why in a moment here. I'm gonna flip it over and I'm gonna add this on here like this. Now I'm being mindful that I'm not sticking this flap down. So I wanna make sure this bottom dimensional does not stick this flap down, because this is meant to get tucked in like this and hold it closed so that it will easily open like that. Okay, so that's what's gonna hold it closed. And then we can add, actually we're gonna do this piece first. And the other thing I did is I used a retired product. Actually, I used 2 retired products on this card. But you could switch it out and use something that's current. I just wanted a little bit of bling and I wanted it to be white. So I had some white glimmer paper left from when we carried it. And I'm sure we'll carry it again at some point, but I don't believe we carry it currently. So I punched out that smaller leaf from the bow punch. And I'm just going to add a little bit of adhesive on here. And then a little bit of adhesive on the back of this. So if you're a regular follower of mine, you know that I don't like to waste and I like to use my product, as much of my product as I can. I'm a business demonstrator, so I do buy a lot of current stuff, but while it's current, I try to use as much of it as I can so that I don't have a lot left at the end. And on occasion, there are some things that I keep. I don't keep a lot. I usually get rid of most of my retired stuff. However, little bits of embellishments like this or little bits of glimmer paper that I think would probably come back at some point, I will often keep those. So on occasion, you will see some product that has retired. All right, so I just put a dimensional on here and a little bit of flat adhesive on there. And then this is gonna go right on top here. We're gonna cover up that partial thank you. And that's gonna make it so that it's even all the way across. Because remember, we popped this up on dimensionals. And then of course I can't make a card without a little bit of twine, right? So I've got some white twine that I'm just gonna tie into a bow. Trim that off, and then I'm going to put a little dot of multi-purpose glue. And then I've got these sequins. Now these sequins, I can't even tell you where they're from. They weren't in any packaging. They could have come from a paper pumpkin kit. I'm not sure. They likely came from a paper pumpkin kit. But they have a hint of purple in them when you look. They're kind of iridescent. So I just thought that they would look great with this. So I'm just going to add 3 of these on there. And there is the front of our card. And we can lift up the flap. And then this is one of the 3/4 inch by 4 inch strips that we had left over. Just add a little bit of adhesive to that, and that is going to go right on here. Like that. And that will close like that. And this just gets tucked under here like that. Isn't that gorgeous? And such a great fun fold. And you can make 9 of these. So if you are joining in late and you happen to miss out at the beginning of this, or towards the beginning of this, I shared how to cut a 12 by 12 piece of DSP down so that you could get 9 of these cards out of one sheet. And then here's the other, one of the other ones that I made. So this one is the 3/4 inch length. So for the 3/4 inch length, you'll just have a little bit of a border around the edges, but no waste at all for your patterned paper. Okay, here's a couple more that I've made, and I plan on making more using those other pieces. And then I have one other design to share with you. Here is another one done with the birthday suite at the front of the annual catalog. The name escapes me right now, but then you just flip that up, open it up, and there we go. Super fun. So I had to make one of these because I'm working, for those of you who are local and coming to the Creative Carnival tomorrow, this is the suite that I'm working with. So everything that I've made pretty much over the last month or so, I've duplicated with the birthday suite. So you will see this on my display if you're joining us. So, all right. So there is card number 2. Let me bring back card number 1. So this was the first card that we created, and here are the additional samples. There we go. So lots and lots of tips on creating multiples and 2 great card designs for creating multiples with absolutely no waste. So I know some of you like to make lots of cards or need to make lots of cards. These 2 cards are a great design. Like I said earlier, this is a great video to save or head to my blog post at stamptreasures.com and pin the post so that you can revisit this idea during the holidays, because these 2 card designs will be great during the holidays. All right. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to head over to my blog and subscribe to the tutorial and card club. I'd love to have you join us. I know you won't be disappointed. And I will see you next week. Take care, everyone.